talk last night?
Yeah, I just won 2 games, which is pretty nice, but
Overall, not going too great.
I lost 5 more matches before that.
I see. All right. Um. Okay. Yeah. So, what I mentioned to you, we're gonna talk a bit about some general like game theory, and focus more on like, okay, how do you actually win games? And I'll tell you like the pretty much like the basics without going too much into like specific examples, but then we're gonna like relate it to your games, and then it should also make more sense to like why, because I'm sure you know the feeling, like some games feel really hard, some games feel really easy, and like I would imagine you don't always know exactly why that is.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, first of all, let's start with tell me about, like, let's pick one of your recent losses. I mean, I'm looking at recent games here.
Let's take the first of the 2 wins.
Or first of the 2 wins, okay.
Yeah, can you share screen?
Sure, 1 sec.
The one that takes 35 minutes.
So this one.
Yes.
Okay, might have to close some stuff.
So usually I talk about losses, but this game, I don't know, like I was mid against a tiny, and the only reason why we won is because we base raced them in the end.
Uh-huh.
But my team said, and that was also my view, that
Yeah.
I had very low impact for a last pick OD.
Okay. Yeah, this, looking at the picks, this does look like a pretty good example of what we're gonna talk about. Let's but first, I mean, like I want to hear a little bit from you, like how do you, okay, you feel as well you had low impact even though you were last pick and stuff. You were mid against a tiny, which is not that bad of a lane. So for your feeling, like, what is actually the reason that it was kind of difficult?
It's tough to say. I feel for most games, it's mostly getting out pushed, but this one not really.
Okay, out pushed in what sense? Like,
for example, the one before that, was it this one? It was actually this one. Okay. So they had a Prophet and a Wet King, and they both had like 1 million minions. We lost Midrax because they had, well, 1 million minions, and then they also had the Tiny, of course, and the Monkey King LT. It was all a bit much. Like there's about like 10 million people that I could hit with my attacks. I didn't even have that many disables, right? The other problem was obviously that they bought 2 orchids, but that wasn't honestly not that big of a problem. We were a bit low on disables as well, I think. And it was just generally, I don't know, I don't know, it was just generally felt like I couldn't really do much.
yeah. So, I mean, you're pretty much closer to the truth, so to speak, than you think.
What's the opposite of regicide?
Yeah, so basically, the first thing we're gonna start with is But what the game really is about, and this is like when you like break down the game as much as possible, like to the most basic level. So we're gonna start from the like inverse. We're gonna start from the final goal. So obviously, final goal, okay, is to kill the ancient. And then, I mean, again, obviously, to do that, you need to take all the towers and stuff. I mean, you need actually only one tier 3 tower. Then you can get tier 4s and ancient. So, I mean, pushing the tier 1 and the tier 2 is like pretty straightforward. Not too much to say about that. Not insane amounts of strategy involved. But tell me about the, let's say, pushing high ground, or like taking the tier 3s essentially. What do you think is the best way to achieve that, generally speaking? Like, this is not really about lineups per se. I mean,
So generally, I try to always like get the ages before that, before pushing high ground, and usually I want to like get a pick off before that on core, and possibly even force a buyback and then kill that buyback person again. It depends a bit on the matchup, but there's a lot of like these heroes that are insane on defending high ground, like Tinker, for example.
yeah.
And it's just generally like a lot of these games that I lost yesterday, for example, we were pushing high ground and then we got destroyed, and yeah, and the game was we lost our advantage, if we even had it at that point. I think that's also a good question.
Yeah, that's
like,
yeah. Okay, so let's again break down a little bit what you said. So you generally try to get the ages and or maybe a pick off on a key hero. So what do those things do? They give you some form of advantage, right? So that when you, and then like, okay, tell me again a bit more like detail, like, you know, even if it sounds silly, like precisely, okay, how do you actually approach like going for a tier 3 tower?
so usually, for example, this game, the enemy has a prophet. The prophet would like try to tank the tower hits or the enemy hits with the creeps, and then the prophet or the klings would, probably the prophet would hit the tower, I think. In our team, it's the Terror Blade. Here would have probably a bit harder of a game because he doesn't want to get initiated on, I think. But yeah, generally you have like a hero that can do tower damage without like dying immediately, and like you want a siege basically, or at least that's how I understood it anyway.
Yeah.
Since I like with Jakiro, for example, I just like use the talent. I think it's the level 15 talent that gives you extra attack range.
Yeah.
And I use that on towers, even though it's a bit buffed, but
Okay.
yeah, for some reason it sometimes doesn't apply the extra range. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a bit iffy, like, because, you know, it's like liquid fire is, it's technically an orb, but it's also technically a spell. So there's some weird interactions with like between attack range and cast range and how it really functions.
Yeah.
Autocast or not autocast, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it just drives me insane. Other than that.
Yeah. Okay, so again, you mentioned some key things here. It's obviously okay about actually hitting the tower, right? And then like making sure that, you know, you don't get killed in the process, like you said, for example.
Yeah, when I play Phoenix, then I usually approach it a bit differently. I try to secure basically the tower by like sunwaying, then using my fire spirits dive, and then using my ulti while, I don't know, my juggernaut or whoever hits the tower, or my team tries to get some kills in the base, but it's a bit more risky to play it that way.
Yeah, yeah. So basically those approaches are all more or less based around team fighting.
Yeah.
The concept of, you know, group up, you force a fight around the tower, and like the enemy has two choices: either they, you know, fight you, or they lose the tower.
Yeah. When the enemy is either like weak, that they can't really team fight us that well,
Yeah,
or gank us that well, then usually I always like there's also the way to like split up. We do this sometimes when we have a strong pusher, like for example Klings is a good hero to like split up.
yeah,
But it obviously depends a bit on the enemy lineup. You don't want him to like instantly die to the OD or something.
yeah, yeah.
A bit.
Okay, so sorry. So this is all pretty theoretical, and so this is like the actual taking of the tier 3. And this is the way a lot of players, or I mean the vast majority of players, approach the game. Now there is of course like a big difference between pub games and pro games. In a pro game you have like a team and you can coordinate a lot better, make plans and whatnot. And that's not exactly the case in a pub game. You need to think a bit more about you know, like what your team is actually willing to do and not willing to do, and you know how they play. And even if you have some amazing plan, if the rest of your team doesn't have that plan, like it's not really gonna work. But with that being said, like I'll tell you basically the mindset you should have that's just more reliable. So if you remember, we were talking about teamfight positioning last time, right? And in general team fights,
Yes.
how they're kind of unreliable, how people often use their spells wrong or like on the wrong target, or someone forgets to press BKB, someone you know that gets caught out by a stun without reacting and stuff like that. So generally, like this is the first key thing to recognize. Again, in pro games, team fights are more or less predictable because you can expect that everyone will do what they're supposed to. Like no one is gonna forget to use their spells or items, and with both teams kind of anticipating a good, like proper execution. One thing is that, you know, becomes a lot more important is basically vision and, you know, stuff like who gets a better jump and stuff like that. But the other big thing is mostly that, you notice in pro games, teams take fights way less often and are much quicker to realize, you know, what is actually a good fight, what isn't. And when they do fight, it's with a purpose. Most of the time, but you know, even some pro teams don't really do this very well. But again, so the point is, any fight, it's a risk, because you know you're going in, your hero cannot, unless like there's some heroes the risk is pretty low depending on how you play it. But like let's say OD is not really one of them, because what you do in a fight is you go in and you hit someone, and like you can't stun the whole team, you can't you know, survive everything or whatever, like tank everything. You are counting on, like let's say your teammates to get some kind of disable so you can get hits and stuff like that. So already, like, it's important to realize that any fight is just going to be somewhat risky, like, and unreliable. It's a risk. The more items you have, the bigger the advantage you have is, the less risky it is. But even then, like, you'll be amazed at how much people can screw up. Like, I've had games where, you know, I'm having like an insanely good game, I'm playing some carry, really good item timings, I'm like 6 slotted at 30 minutes or something, and still we cannot win a fight at the enemy base Like I don't die, I manage to escape, but like say half my team dies, enemies defend successfully. So, you know, by all logic, when you have like a massive lead, like your carry has 6 items and the enemy carry has 3 items, there should be no way you lose the fight, right? But it can still easily happen, and it happens. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, where I'm going with all this is that, like, here's the first thing to realize, you know, forcing a fight is generally not safe. It's not a great idea. It doesn't matter how farmed you are, because the reason it's not safe is just has nothing to do with like logic or items. It just has to do with people not executing properly. So it's not to say like, oh, you should only farm all game, never approach any fight. No, that's not what I'm saying. It just means the way you approach fights should be like low commitment. Like you should still apply pressure, but you know, not actually commit to a fight. Now, what does it mean to commit? Basically, like, let's say you're a Phoenix, you know, what you're saying, like, using some Fire Spirits, using Sunray, that's, you know, you still have your escape mechanism, the dive, so you can still get out. The moment you use it to actually go in, you're kind of committed. Not kind of, you are committed. I mean, that's literally, like, what it boils down to. It's pretty straightforward. You know, with OD, if you have a Blink and a Pike, you have some more options. Let's say if they don't have like a lot of catch, you know, you could, like, let's say this game, you could technically, you know, let's say the Raid King is dead, so the only hero with stun is like Tiny and Monkey, but you know, Tiny's the one that's kind of threatening. So if you blink on the Tiny and then pike him, like Hurricane Pike him back, to get some free hits in, you are like doing something, but you're not really committed because there's no risk of you dying. But let's say you blink in and then you pike forwards to chase, suddenly you have no more escape left, and that's when you're really committed to the fight. So the moment you commit yourself, you're taking a huge risk, because there's like, you're basically like giving yourself a chance to die. So anyway, to go back a little bit to the general like approach to the game and how to actually approach high ground. Now we get to the next part. So if fighting is risky, and if forcing a fight around the tower is risky, then how else can you get the tower, right? That's the obvious question. So the best play is basically to give yourself time. Like when the moments you need to force a tower are basically like you're on the timer, even though you're the one pushing. That's what happens when you force it. When the map is not really in your favor that much, you're just trying to like quickly get an open, like force an opening basically. So that's often when other lanes are not pushed. You don't really see all of the enemies, and maybe you're even getting split pushed. And in the case when they have like heroes like Furion, you're pretty much always going to be split pushed, right? Because he always has DP.
Yes.
So that's where the big difference is between just pushing a lane and forcing a tower, which what most people have as a goal, and what should instead be the goal is to have all 3 creep waves be pushed in to the enemy base, which means, like, you know, let's say you're playing Dire, it means like around here, right outside the enemy base. If you have all the 3 waves there, then the enemy is basically boxed in, and what it means is that they can't really leave their base without you knowing.
Yes.
And like that's one thing, and second thing is that you have the opportunity to hit all the towers, and even if you don't, like the creeps are hitting them, so they need to split up their heroes a lot, like across 3 lanes. They need to split their heroes, and that gives you a lot more openings for jumps. It, you know, allows you to damage all the towers, and most importantly, they're not farming anything but the incoming waves, whereas you're free to farm the entire jungle, you're free to take all bounty runes, you're free to pretty much do whatever you want. You're free to put wards, again, thanks to wards they can't leave their base. And that's basically the reliable and the safe winning condition. It's not forcing any kind of fight at a tower or whatever, it's creating this situation. 3 waves at the enemy base, you have full map control, and from there, again, you could fight, if you see an opening. Like if, you know, one guy steps out of his base, the rest of his team is not with him, it's gonna be obvious because you have that map control, that vision. Then you have an opening. Then you could, you know, go for a pick-off. It's not really a fight, then it's more of a pick-off. And then you have a clear advantage, you know, you can try to force things a bit more. But, you know, the pressure is not on you. You could also just simply keep farming, keep showing the waves, and, you know, that way you're building up your lead. So, with that in mind, like, this is the first thing you should accept. Like, this should be your goal every single game, no matter what hero you are, no matter what role. This is the situation you want to create, and that's the situation that's most likely to win you the game. This is also like the theory, you know, again, if you have a great team, how it should be played is one thing. But even for pubs, like, again, let's assume that, you know, your team is stupid, they don't understand any of this, and what they want to do is they just want to, like, dive under the towers and fight. Even if that's the case, by making sure the other lanes are pushed, you know, any given fight is going to take some time. And then, again, no matter what hero you are, you're going to be able to deal a lot of damage to any of these tier 3 towers, if not take them. Even if you're a support, most supports have a way to, like, wave clear. You just wave clear, and with the creeps together you can take the tier 3. Even if there's, like, a random fight going on that you may or may not win. Next reason why this is so good. Even if you lose a fight at the enemy base, when all the waves are pushed, what if they want to get anything out of that fight, they first need to fix the waves, right?
Yeah.
They need to fix the lanes. And by the time they fix the lanes, you're pretty much already respawned. Like, this counts for the majority of the game, maybe, like, let's say not super late game, if you don't have buyback, if they have super good wave clears, but even then, you're buying yourself insane amounts of time. And the chance that you lose some objective after losing a fight at the enemy base with all the waves pushed is very, very low. But imagine now, you know, like this game, you're against the Prophet, and imagine, like, you kind of force down mid, and, you know, the other two waves were kind of at the river, you know, not really pushed by either side. You know, he sends a couple treants, slowly but surely builds some momentum. Meanwhile, you guys are still mid, still trying to poke, still trying to take this tower, like, trying to force it, but not, like, scared to die and stuff. Slowly but surely this wave is pushing. Now, if you lose the fight then, you know, the Fury can just TP and start, like, getting a counter objective because you're all dead, or forcing buybacks. And not just Fury, but any carrier with boots of travel. Or any hero with boots of travel, really. Again, if you have the waves pushed, that's not an option for them. And you're gonna respawn in time. So, now, I mean, I hope, like, I've convinced you, or, like, you can understand why this is so important to have the waves pushed. And why that has, like, it's actually a bigger deal than, like, forcing towers or thinking about the buildings that much. Because, of course, at the end of the day, it is about the buildings. But this is just the way to actually get them. So now the next point is, how do you achieve that, right? How do you actually get all the waves pushed in? And this is where you get to the most, in a lot of ways, the most important quality a hero can have. And that's, like, a quality that's not... Again, this is something that, you know, in the game, or the way people think about heroes, it's pretty, it's kind of, like, superficial, if that makes sense. You know, like, people think, oh, Klink's physical damage, Fearon has a TP, Tiny has a lot of magic damage and physical, Nukes, Wisp can heal people, TB is a carry, Nyx can catch people, etc. But a quality that every single hero has, or doesn't have, or, like, is good or bad at, is basically the wave clear. And to this wave clear, there are a bunch of aspects which determine, like, how good a hero is at wave clearing. So, again, to break it down very simply, like, first you have the most obvious one, like, okay, the actual ability to kill creep waves fast. So first, how fast? You know, like, depending on what, do you have AoE nukes or not? Like, if you have single target damage, how high is your damage? How high is your attack speed? Do you have a Battle Fury or not? Can you go for a Battle Fury or not? Stuff like that. The next, okay, also tied into that is No, okay, no, let's keep that as one thing. So basically, just like literally, how fast can you kill a creep wave? The next part is like basically sustain, or we're talking about mana costs or other potential costs, and cooldowns. So again, let's make the difference between Tiny. He's a great wave clearer because he has, avalanche toss can clear wave, and with the tree he can clear wave, and with tree and toss he can also clear wave. If you compare him to Monkey is an okay wave clear because the jump and the first spell also clears wave, but they have a pretty big cooldown. Let's think of another example. What's another hero that, like let's say Klinks, when he pops strafe, he can clear wave, but then when it's on cooldown he can't really. So yeah, I mean, a bunch of heroes have like different characteristics, and then if you think about the ones that are best, are basically those that, like a majority of the cooldowns are short enough that by the time the next wave arrives, you have it again. Like let's say even Phoenix, Fire Spirits. But what makes a hero exceptionally good is when like those cooldowns are short enough that you can actually like seek out those waves and kill them even quicker. Like that's where, for example, Shadow Fiend, late game Shadow Fiend, one raise almost insta kills a wave, especially when he has a cooldown talent. He has like 3 raises every 6 seconds, and 2 raises are already enough to kill even a mega creep wave. So basically Shadow Fiend can just run around the map and constantly kill waves. Like he doesn't have to even wait for them like he can run to the waves. Like you could raise this wave, run to the next, raise it, like even raise some camps and then run to the next. See, so that's what makes part of what makes him very good. Of course, any hero with Battle Fury also has basically no cooldown, right? Because they just hit, and like that's it.
Yeah.
So that's like speed and basically how, like, what are you expending like in terms of cooldown and mana cost and stuff. Like this is pretty. I mean, there's a lot of characteristics to it. Another big one is, for example, risk. But that's also tied to like information you're giving the enemy team by clearing a wave, and then from there also risk. So for example, any melee carry needs to actually show themselves. Not just that, but they need to be like right next to the creep wave because they're melee. And then compare that to a hero like Zeus, who can do it, Zeus or Coral, or Shadow Demon or whatever, who can kill the creeps from the fog. And this is like a really, really important distinction because, like in theory, like Zeus spamming bolts from the fog or like arc from the fog, like if someone puts their camera on that lane, they're gonna see the lightning. They're gonna know that Zeus is there, even if they don't actually see the Zeus, right? Because they can see the lightning. But the thing is, people don't. I mean, people don't have the map awareness to like, click on heroes that are showing. Let's stand, keep track of their creep waves. So it's safe to assume that if you don't show on the minimap, they're not gonna know.
Yeah.
So that's like, how much you're showing, and then, but that one again is slightly less relevant at, for pubs and for less coordinated games, because people don't pay that much attention anyway, and the advantages of like showing or withholding information are not that significant. But here we get to the most important one for pubs, and that's the overall like strength of the hero. And what that means is, so you're pushing a wave, but the enemy also wants to push a wave, right? And you're on the same lane. So what happens when you meet? Like, let's take this game. There's a Furen and you're an OT. So of course, in a straight up like man fight, you probably win. I mean, he can buy Orchid, but you can buy something to deal with Orchid. you know, bottom line is you deal way more damage, pure damage, blah blah. Like again, straight up man fight, you probably win.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like a straight up man fight doesn't matter because this is not about, we're not talking about heroes. We're talking about the creeps. And it doesn't matter who's stronger than who, per se, like in a straight man fight, because you need to, like the creeps are what is important, like you need to kill the creeps. So you need to think of a situation like you want to push a wave and there's a hero on that wave. How do you, like, are you able to force the hero away or not? And that's also where you notice like that kills don't actually matter that much, because you know, okay, kill is great for the reason that you take away the hero and then that's one less hero that's, you know, preventing you from pushing away. But if you make that hero low HP and you make him go back, that's the same thing. So so the difference between a kill and actually forcing someone back is very, very small. So in that sense, like the actual like straight up pickoff doesn't really matter too much. It's more about, you know, can you deal damage to this guy or threaten him enough so that he has to go back and you don't. And then with the ultimate,
I mean, I guess
yeah, sorry.
it depends a bit on the hero, like Prophet or Tinker. I guess they can return really quick, right?
Ah, you mean they heal and they come back?
Yeah, like they just heal up and come back. Like if you have to run all the way back to base, okay, but if you can just teleport back to base and then teleport back to the lane.
Yes, I mean that's definitely true. I mean, that's a very good point. That's why a big part of the reason why those heroes are so good at, you know, doing this. It's also like you should be starting to get the picture of why OD, for example, is not very good at doing this, because OD has no sustain. Like you don't, if you take some damage as OD, you know, you're kind of fucked, because the only HP regen items you often buy are like Pike and maybe a Linken's, but that's not very common, right? Not every game. And even with those two, your HP regen is not that high. So, like this is the first thing where OD lacks, you know, again, it's pretty obvious, right? You like there's a Tinker, you man fight a little bit, both of you take some damage. Okay, he TP's base, but then he's back like 5 seconds later, and he's full again, and you're not full, and this time you can't fight him anymore. So that's where the Tinker has an edge. And second thing is that a lot of these heroes don't even have to really commit themselves to actually, like, again, take an example. He just drops a March, and he can do that from the fog. You don't even see him. Okay, you can see the March, but that doesn't really mean much. And your creeps just die. And yeah, unless you catch him, like, there's zero risk involved for him. Then you take a hero like Nature's Prophet, who, again, people don't even really play like to the strength that well. Like, they don't fully utilize it, but this hero can just send Treants, and the Treants will push the wave, and there's zero risk. Like, the worst thing that happens is you kill the Treants. But, you know, in the meantime, he can be on a different lane, he can send more Treants, he can do so many things, you know, it's just...
Yeah.
And that's why H Prophet is great at wave clear. So, combination of all these factors, basically, again, like, all these factors also kind of depend on the matchups in general. Like, let's say, okay, OD is not a great wave clear hero, but if it's a really good OD game, you become a good wave clear hero because no one can really stay against you. Like, let's say, like, what's a really good OD game? Imagine, you know, there's like a bunch of slow melee heroes, like a Tide, a Spirit Breaker, what else? I mean, there aren't even, to be honest, that many, but yeah, like, I mean, I would say, like, let's say, I would say Underlord or Timber, but the fact remains that even though you deal a lot of damage to them, they can still like very quickly wipe out the creep wave with their spells, and then even though you're there, like they kind of just ignore you. Okay, you do some damage to them, but whatever. I guess Centaur is another one that you're pretty good against. Bristle, you know, somewhat depends who's ahead in items and stuff. But see, there you go. Like, there really aren't that many heroes where, like, if you're an OD, you can aggressively shove the wave against them. In the example of Prophet, like you mentioned, okay, he didn't even take the Tree and Summon talent, for example. Like, he could have taken that talent, but... So, even though you one-shot Treants, and he can't man-fight you and all that stuff, you have a kill potential on him, like, it doesn't really matter practically for the game, because what happens is he just sends Treants on one lane, TPs on another lane, sends Treants on that lane, uses his ulti, all the waves are suddenly pushed, and you're an OD, you don't have a TP, it takes you, you know, the time it takes you to actually clear a creep wave plus Treants is quite a while. Like, you need to hit every creep once, and also Astral. And, you know, the Astral alone is minimum 4 seconds, but then also hitting every single creep once, you know, that's another maybe extra 1 or 2 seconds. It's not quick. Meanwhile, he presses one button, and 3 waves are pushed. This is also where, like, you notice that for this purpose, it's not necessarily about killing the creeps, like, from 100 to 0. It's about making sure that your creep wave moves forward. And so basically that means the enemy creep wave dies before your creep wave dies. So that's where the Fear and ult, even though it doesn't one-shot the wave, like just bringing it to half means that wave is gonna die before the enemy, before his wave. And that means his wave will move forward. Even if it only moves forward with like a few creeps, it's still like momentum, it's still push. The next wave is gonna stack up a little bit. 2 range creeps, it's gonna keep going, etc. Until someone comes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that the game is all about, basically. And again, let's take Wraith King, why he's so annoying to deal with in pubs. Even though the hero is so simple, let's just think about it. Like, he has no mobility. I mean, okay, he has a stun, but it's like very slow, easy to dodge. He doesn't have AoE. Like, no one buys Battle Fury on Wraith King. Maybe Radiance, but not super often. The skeletons are pretty good, but they're also very squishy. But, you know, the key thing with Wraith King is that his reincarnation means it's not really worth it for almost any hero to go to his lane. Because what's gonna happen is, even if you have, like, first of all, he's tanky, so it's not easy for many heroes to solo kill him. But even if you can, like let's say with OD, you can solo kill him with your ulti if you commit your ult. But then you don't want to do that because he's gonna respawn. Okay, I guess that's how the game ends. Yeah, so you see, like, they kind of had the advantage, but then you guys managed to race it because you also let the rack stand, which was, I mean, obviously a great decision. TB had so many illusions. Yeah, that was an illusion in the front. Right, so you can solo kill him with your ult, but you don't want to use it because he's reincarnation. And that kind of goes for a bunch of heroes. Like, the amount of heroes that can solo kill Wraith King once, like quite a few, but the amount that can solo kill him twice after he reincarnates, like, basically no one, except unless you're like super farmed. So that's where that's the thing that makes Wraith King, for example, a good wave pusher, because at least in pops.
I guess Anti-Mage and Phantom Lancer could technically.
Yeah, okay, they kind of could, yeah, because they burn his mana if he's before level 20, this and that, yeah. But anyway, so again, if you look at the game this way, you should start getting a clear picture of like the strengths and weaknesses in each hero if you look at him this way, and you also kind of see why like this is such a huge weakness for OD, because he just cannot do this. And again, if we take this game, which I mean technically you should have lost, is that if you run into the Wraith King, you know, you can hit him, but you can't really commit to kill him, and the moment he has a few items, it's just tough. Like, he's the one who's gonna force you back. If you run into the Clinks, kind of similar story. Like, you know, the strafe even disjoints, he hits way harder. It's tough. Like, if you run in the Prophet, it's all the treants. You're taking damage. He can just go back and heal. He kills the creepers faster. Same with the Tiny, and honestly, even with the Monkey. I mean, like we mentioned, the amount of heroes that an OD is actually the one who can zone them back, like, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
And then naturally the game is going to be hard. Now, of course, again, if you have a good team like the Phoenix, pretty good wave clear. IO is decent. TB is okay. Like, TB is single target, but he's very, like, his stat based, like, he hits really fast and hard, and his illusions also, therefore. And the fact that it's an illusion means, like, he has a good ability as well, because he can send illusions.
Yeah, he bragged about it, how his illusion pushes the wave for him while he TPs to defend. That was funny.
He bragged about it. Okay, I mean, I don't know about bragging about it, but it is true that that's like a very big deal. Same with that's why you also build Mantle and TB, because it's like makes that even stronger. And again, oh yeah, this is another thing that I forgot to mention about when it comes to wave clear is, the other thing is range, basically. I mean, you go very in depth, but pretty much it's like some heroes need to actually be there with their hero, and some heroes don't, because they have summons of some sort. And that's where, like, it's usually either illusions or, you know, in Nature's Prophet case, it's treants. What else is there? You have Evoker Force Spirits, Lone Druid Bear with Radiance and or Axe and stuff like that. So these heroes, they are exceptionally good because they don't even actually have to be there with their hero. And of course that doesn't mean I mean, okay, in TB's case, that means he's like farming woods, but the advantage is that he can actually push multiple waves at once. You know, when he gets strong enough, one illusion is enough to clear a wave. So, you know, technically you have Manta, you have Conjure Image, you can clear 3 waves at the same time. It's why, like, the Naga build that was so popular, that was so insanely hard to deal with.
Oh god, don't remind me.
Yeah, I'm very, very glad that's not a thing anymore, but that is actually, like, it just goes to show, if you have a hero that's that good at it, like, how impossible the game feels. Because you just can't play. You don't have creeps. And in the meantime, he's getting, you know, 8 slotted, so...
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about, and this should also kind of show you why I was mentioning the Jakiro for being such a good hero, no matter what role, because he is super good at wave clear. Like, he has the dual breath with liquid fire, pretty much kills a wave. I think, okay, you need to take the talent if you want to make it like 100%, that you actually get all the last hits even in the late game. But even without, like, the creep wave is as good as dead. And then you also have the ult on top of that, which can clear a wave, like, completely on its own from massive range. So it's a hero that has the potential to push waves really, really well. And when you build, when you get items, the items you want to build are basically a combination of disables and mobility, which allows you to, you know, do this push wave safely and not get caught out, you know, have the ability to catch someone, etc. So yeah, that's an example of why Jakiro is a good hero for that. Then you have like a couple heroes that are just really bad at it, but then they have some other big advantage. Like, let's say take Bounty, one of the worst wave clear heroes, obviously. But he has other advantages, but that's why you need to, like, fit him in draft. That's why you run him like this. He's good with all the heroes with a lot of AoE. So I hope it like makes sense what I'm trying to explain to you, but basically like try to approach the game in this way. And again, you can still do it with OD, it's just a bit harder. If you want to switch, like one thing I can advise you to switch things up a bit, playing the OD, is to try the hammer some games. I mean, I'm sure you've tried it sometimes, but try like getting it early. So for example, 4 staff into meteor hammer.
Okay.
So what this allows you to do is to actually pressure towers a bit. Of course, you can also use the hammer to kill a wave, but ideally, like it's not really that hard. I mean, it's not hard at all, it just takes some getting used to. But you know, you can shove a wave and then ideally you hammer the tower as well as the next wave. So it takes like some minor timing. But yeah, just it's all about this mental switch, like this mindset. Just forget about team fights and heroes and KDAs and stats and farm and all this stuff. Just the game is about creep waves. Think about that. Another really important thing is also like don't be limited by, oh, the creeps are fighting here, that's where I need to go to push. No, you can kill a creep wave anywhere, and you always know where the creep waves are. Very simple trick. It's just mirrored. Like you look at the.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that. Yeah, you could look at your own wave
Yeah.
on the opposite lane. Yeah. And just have that in mind. How do I kill creep waves quickly, safely, while not using too many resources? I have the ability to escape if I get caught by a bunch of heroes. If I see someone, how can I pressure them to go back so that they are not pushing the wave back? Again, that's where the hammer helps, because it actually gives you some very, very early solo kill potential by doing Astro into hammer. A lot of heroes you can kill. I mean, technically you can kill any hero if your timing is perfect, but that's like, it's not reliable to count on perfect timing. So it's not really good against heroes that can like go magic immune or have
Link away.
dodge spells. Yeah. But for a lot of heroes, like let's say this game, none of these heroes really have an answer to it. And it gives you some potential to kill them early on. I think this is really the item that... It's not really OD strength. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not the way you're supposed to play OD in terms of what the hero is best at. But what the hero is best at requires your team to also play around you. Like, the hero shines when you have a team that's pushing waves for you, that's keeping your health sustained, giving some form of regen, and boosting your attack speed in some way. If you have all these things, then OD is amazing, right? Because you can itemize completely for mobility, your damage is going to be insane as long as someone is giving you attack speed. You have like an ogre or a beast or a legion on your team. And then if you also have heals like an omni, boom, the hero is awesome. But in pubs that's not the case. Pretty much majority of games.
Yeah.
And that's where the hammer... Also, if you look at the stats, like 4 HP regen, so actually having the hammer plus the 4 staff plus magic wand brings you up to about 10 HP regen just from items. 10.5 in fact. And this obviously amplified by strength, so ends up being like more like 15 pretty soon. And like that actually gives you pretty solid sustain. As for the damage, see the math quickly. So the damage on heroes, it's 150 impact plus 75 per second for 6 seconds. So that's quite a bit. That's 450 of the DOT plus the impact 150, so 600 damage total.
Yeah.
600 damage
And there you go.
on top of the it's like exactly on top of the 300 from the astral, 325 from the astral. That's already 900 damage, and then like you add in a couple hits. It's a ton of damage. But really, arguably more important than that is the fact that you can use it on towers, because it turns this hero that cannot really pressure towers into a hero that actually can. and it just changes what kind of impact you can have around the map. And
I see.
yeah. So yeah, lastly, I mean, you notice like things are gonna kind of mentally click in your head as you have this focus for a couple of games. It's gonna just make it also easier for you to decide things. It's gonna be easier for you to make decisions like, do I join a fight or not? Do I go on this guy or not? And things like that. For example, again, when you see a let me think of some good examples. So if you see a jugger or a lifestealer on the lane, you know, they're magic immune. How do you deal with them? You're gonna realize that like you just accept, okay, I cannot like go for a hammer kill or anything like that, but what I can do is just astral them, hit the creeps around them, and then do some damage and let the creep wave pop. And that way I push them back. And then if they keep moving forward, I do that again. Or you can even do like one hit and then astral. They're not really gonna use their magic immunity like right away, right, for one hit. So one hit plus astral is like decent amount of damage. Then if they stay, you do it again the next wave. Again, you keep in mind like potentially getting caught or not. When you see like a Furion, you're gonna focus on clearing the treants as well as you can, because again, chasing the hero, maybe killing, maybe not, is not worth it if his treants are just killing your creep wave in the meantime.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of just gives you like a more like logical approach to the game, like how you decide things and where you move. And also, yeah, lastly again about cutting waves, like that's again something very important. In a lot of these cases, like let's say the lifestealer is just super farmed, you can't really deal with him. You don't have to. You can wait for him to clear a wave, and then walk past him and go for the next wave and take that, and then he has to run back. And that's where you can decide to. Oh yeah, this is maybe the last thing. I can give some. Maybe it's a bit better to give in-game examples. I'm not sure any of my games have such good examples, but I haven't played public games that much recently. Okay, I'm not gonna find any time now, but the point is, when you cut a wave, like there are some heroes that are really dangerous for this, that make it super hard. Like probably the prime example is Spirit Breaker, because the moment you cut a wave, he's gonna charge you, and then you basically have to TP out, or otherwise you're gonna die because he's charging you, one guy TPs in, and they see you. You need to use some disable on the Spirit Breaker to stop the charge, but then you don't have that for the other hero, and you're probably just dead.
Yeah. So
Spirit Breaker, big like danger zone, makes things a lot harder. Until you get Lincolns, again, that's the way to deal with that. You get Lincolns, but majority of other heroes don't really have a great way. Like again, take this game, they don't have really the best way to instantly get you, or to keep vision of you. No global vision. So what that means is it's very easy to actually manipulate them and kind of force their movement, etc. Like let's say you imagine a hypothetical scenario. I'm gonna open the replay again real quick just to show you. On the minimap, hypothetical scenario. So imagine the Klings, you know, he's pushing bottom lane. Oh no, the Raid King, even better. Yeah. Imagine Raid King, he's pushing bottom lane. He's pretty farmed. You know, like he has a blade node or whatever. You can't really fight him, or Orchid, it doesn't matter. And you can't really fight him. So he's pushing here. The tier 1s are already down. And you want to push the wave back, but if you approach, you're just gonna take a bunch of damage, it's risky, blah blah. Instead, you just go here. Like you see this creep wave coming, you look at your own wave, bomb, and you snipe the creep wave here. Now, again, even as an OD, even not the best hero for it, it's still fairly quick when you do it like this, because, yeah, one advantage of cutting waves is that the creeps will aggro to you, which means you can make them stand exactly the way you want so that your AoE spell hits them all. So in OD's case,
Yes.
you can like walk up, you ask for the range creep, and then you stand next to it. All the melee creeps are also gonna run next to it. You hit them all once, the wave is dead. This takes like, let's say, 4 or 5 seconds. And now the Raid King's like, oh, I was trying to push this lane, this guy just got my wave. Well, I want to push, so I'm gonna go there to like scare him away. And you have two options, right? Again, if there's some global vision, if it's like heavy mobility on the enemy team, it's risky, you can always like TP out right away. But in the case of Raid King, who's super slow, all you have to do is go in the trees anywhere. Like on all the lanes, there's like a million of these hiding spots. Like, I mean, you see, there's this, on every lane. So many hiding spots. You go in any of those, and you just wait. What's gonna happen is that, like, he's gonna run there, and again, this is so predictable. You don't see it, you don't have vision, but you don't need to, because you know. Like, they're gonna run there, possibly with more heroes. They're gonna look for you, waste their time, decide, oh, he TP'd out, and then they go somewhere else again, and then you can come out for the next wave. Like you skip one wave, you clear one, you hide, you miss one, and then the next one you come out of the trees and you take it again. And because they just left, and this time they're like, oh my god, he's still there, what the fuck? And this time their like reaction might be more like pressing. They might actually TP with more heroes, and then like actually start searching for you in the trees. And that's when you actually do TP out right away. And like this just really fucks with them. And the reason it's so good is that you're cutting a wave, so you're clearing a wave, even though you technically shouldn't be able to, because let's say the other guy is stronger. So if you met on the lane, he would force you back. But because you're not meeting, you're cutting the wave. You can still do it, clear the wave completely. And second, while they're running back to try and catch you, they're obviously not running towards your creep waves. So even like the action of like making them walk back is indirectly pushing all waves, because that means they're giving up their position somewhere else on the map where they could be pushing more waves. So yeah, that's the theory on that. So yeah, I would say just try some games with that kind of mindset. I'm gonna see if I can find my last OD game. It's probably not gonna be available to replay, but at least look at build. Because this was a loss. Yeah, this was a party game. I did go for hammer actually this game. And then some other items. Yeah, this was a pretty close game, I remember. We kind of threw without buybacks later on. But yeah, this game, okay, this was a good example where the Jakiro kept using he had a lot of items, but no mobility, no buyback, and he kept using his macro pirate to farm jungle camps instead of to clear waves. So that made things really difficult. The one before that, okay, this was actually solo queue. Okay, I didn't go for hammer this game. Yeah, I just went Shivas because they have a lot of physical damage, so Shivas allows me to basically just walk in and tank and like slow them all and stuff, set them up for my team. Because he's skill build here. I got 2 points on orb for the lane. I was laning against this SF. Quite a good laner. I think he's still like outplaying me on the lane, but it went quite okay. Like I went 2 points on orb, so I harassed him, and then I maxed the Astro after.
Yeah, my lane against this after last game went pretty outstanding.
Did you? Wait, let's see. So that was not this game. That was. Yeah, okay. I see. He didn't have a good time. Okay, so you went for the usual max orb build.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, and lastly, this also kind of shows you why I'm always telling you about the, like, it's bad to max orb, you need levels in Astral and stuff, because, again, like, all this wave clear and whatever scenarios, it all counts on having level 4 Astral to make it quick. And yeah, like I mentioned, it's not always about actually clearing the wave. When you get comfortable with it, you can sort of time it. Like what I like to do sometimes is, if my creep wave reach the tower and I have to back, I know they're coming, I try to time it so that like I Astral on my own creeps. So by the time the Astral pops, the enemy wave is gonna be on top of it. It's gonna get hit. So I just Astral it and walk away. Like I'm not really getting last hits, I'm not getting XP, but I'm making the next wave pretty low, so it ends up being a push. A form of push and pressure. And on mid, you can do it pretty easily, like generally when the creep, like there was an example here, I think. Yeah, anytime the creep wave meets like this, that's what I really like to do, you Astral the middle one, and again, I mean now it's like laning stage, you can, if there's like no risk, you can just hit them and make sure you get all the last hits, because you need farm anyway, but let's say it's mid game, enemies are missing and stuff, you're not sure what's going on, what you do here is just Astral this creep and you walk away, and that's gonna pop and it's gonna kill the range creep, it's gonna damage the others, and yeah, end up pushing the wave. Yeah, lastly also, because the range creep deals the most damage, if you look at the damage values are the same, but there's actually damage types. I'm not sure if you know about that. Yeah, so
does like piercing or something.
Exactly, so range creep actually deals a lot more damage than all the others, which means killing the range creep equals pushing the wave, even if all the others stay alive. Yeah. Alright man, so I hope this kind of made sense to you. I hope you got the idea.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's really, again, like if anyone asks me like what is the game about, how do I, you know, what's the difference between this and that player and stuff, I always tell them about this. So yeah, just like play some games with this in mind. Try some, I mean, you're gonna be playing OD again, but try it anyway, like what I mentioned, it still applies. You know, maybe try to hammer if you feel like it's a good game for it, and yeah, see how it works, how it feels, and then we can take a look at that next time, and we can see like how well did you do it, you know, did you miss some opportunities, could you do it quicker, more efficiently, etc.
Alright,
man. So,
alright, thanks.
welcome. Yeah, good luck, and yeah, see you next time.
Yeah, see you.
Alright guys, that's it. I don't know if anyone's actually watching. I think my chat bugged. Wait, have a way to check. But anyway, that was just one quick lesson. I will be streaming the Battle Cup though, later tonight, so any of you watching now, make sure to tune in for that, and that's in about 3 hours from now. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, see you then.